needed it. The number tonight, 0500 909 693. Shall we talk about property next? Well, people who bought property at the peak of the housing market in 2007 will apparently have to wait until 2014 before they make any money. Now, this is according to research from the National Housing Federation, which represents housing associations in England. The forecast suggests falls in house prices of 12% this year and a further 4.6% next year. Are house prices going to continue to plummet and plummet more? Well, you could be excused for getting confused, because only this week the UK's largest building society said that there was a reasonable chance that house prices could end the year higher than they started in 2009. So, this is the nationwide. They're saying that their latest house price survey showed prices rose by 1.3% in July compared with the previous month. So you take that nationwide survey, house prices going up. The National Housing Federation saying house prices in England will go down. What on earth do you do if you're going to be buying a house? Denise Stringer is an estate agent from Emma Hatton Estates in Chorlton in Manchester. Hello to you, Denise.
Hello.
Lovely to talk to you. How do you read the market?
I think, to be honest, I think we've actually started to level out now. I don't think they're going to go down a lot more. I just think it's definitely levelling. I think.
Now, why don't you think it's going to go down a lot more?
I can only go by the areas that I deal in, and I think, to be honest with you, what's happening is a lot of people can't reduce anymore. They really just can't do it. So what they're tending to do is...
Yeah, but that'll mean, with respect, that they're simply desperate and they've made the wrong choice. If you look at the correlation between affordability, in other words, people's income, and what they've got to borrow, and the fact that the banks aren't lending anymore, those house prices have got to come down an awful lot until people can afford.
Well, they have, but I mean, you might have a lot of people that perhaps are on interest only now, so the mortgages have come down quite a bit. But what we're finding is that a lot of people, because people have still got to move, and what they're tending to do now is, because they can't afford, because they're going into negative equity, what they're tending to do is rent their properties out and going into rented accommodations themselves. So in one hand, they're becoming a landlord, and in the other hand, they're also becoming a tenant again.
Because people have been brainwashed in this country for many, many years, haven't they? That for whatever reason, renting's bad, and as soon as you can, buy.
Well, yeah.
Don't waste money on rent.
Well, that's right, but now people haven't got that choice. I think a lot of people haven't. I think also as well, because of what you said with the banks, what's tending to happen is people are thinking, well, OK, yes, we want to buy, but we'll hang out another 6 months and see whether the prices will drop. I think they will have started settling now, I really do. I think from 2007 until probably up to about March this year, they were plummeting all the time, but now they've definitely levelling.
I doubt Jonathan Davis will agree with you. Evening to you, Jonathan.
Well, what a surprise, Stephen. An estate agent who says house prices have bottomed.
Jonathan, by the way, I should introduce you, Jonathan. Jonathan's a property expert, investment advisor, managing director of financial planners, Armstrong Davis. You advised that property website, propertycrash.co.uk as well, didn't you, Jonathan? So,
I used to speak for housepricecrash.co.uk. That was until about 6 months ago, on a purely voluntary basis. I'm an investment advisor, and since 2005 I've been telling clients not to touch property with a barge pole, and we're still doing that. The estate agents say house prices have bottomed out. Didn't they say that in 2007 as well, 2008? They're always saying prices will not fall, because that's their job. Their job is to sell property. My job is to stop clients from losing money. And that's why people should still not be touching property with a barge pole. The macroeconomic position in the United Kingdom is pretty well as bad as you can get in the Western world in the 21st century. And that's what will determine house prices. And that's why there's a further 20 to 30% to go down from this point until about 2011, 2012. And can I just make one other point? The guys that you're talking about who made this survey or this economic forecast, the National Housing Federation, these are the guys who said last July that house prices would rise by 25% by 2013. They are a shower. They have no idea what they're talking about. They are there to sell shared ownership.
Well, I doubt they're a SHAR. They're the National Housing Federation, and they're entitled.
A business.
Well, they're entitled to their view as much as you are. Now, what about the Nationwide's latest house price survey, which shows that house prices went up in July?
They certainly did. House prices fell 25% on average in the country, but you're from Northern Ireland, so you know they've gone down even further in Northern Ireland. To the end of last year from the peak in September 2007. And sure enough, they have indeed risen in the first half of this year. And if we want, I can list you the reasons why they've risen, but those rises have broadly stopped now. And going into the second half of the year, house prices will fall.
I am interested, Jonathan. Why do you think house prices have gone up?
Yeah, a number of reasons. A, because they fell so much in a year and a quarter, so people started to believe the story, they can't fall any further. Well, that was simply a myth. Secondly, at the time, interest rates were slashed from 5% to 0.5%, so no one was getting anything in their building society accounts. So they're scrabbling around, looking for somewhere to put their money, and they thought, we'll go into property. The other thing is, the bank of mum and dad brought out their chequebook and gave little Johnny and little Jeannie £40,000 or £50,000 to put down deposits on property. That's the reason why property rose in the first half of the year. But all those reasons are out the window now because deposit rates are higher, mortgage rates are higher, unemployment's rising, and so on and so on.
He won't like me calling him Dr. Doom.
Just thinking what a great start to a Monday morning.
But there are other stats that Jonathan's not sharing with you. For example, the Economist Oxford Economics. They have said that house prices in England will be in 2013 3% below their pre-credit crunch peak of 2007, but by 2014, if you can hang on till then, they'll be 3% higher.
I think a lot of people will probably. I mean, if you think back to many years ago, probably to our mum and dads, I mean, they bought a house, they weren't looking at what the profit that they were going to make on it. I think with ourselves, though, we all bought houses as in investment, thinking, well, this is going to make us X amount of money. Nobody ever said that houses were going to bring us in money. Nobody ever said that. A house should be a home. And many people buy them and they're not, they might not move for 10 years. So if that's the case, then that's fine.
Interested to see, Jonathan, how you react to our other guest this evening, Kevin. Kevin Hollenrake is the Managing Director of Hunters Estate Agents. Hunters have branches in York, Leeds, Sheffield and the Midlands. What's happening in your offices up and down the country, Kevin?
Yes, good evening. We are very busy. I mean, it's interesting to see some of the hypotheses coming from Jonathan, but...
Not hypothesis, sir. Facts.
If you let me finish...
Economic facts.
If you let me finish... What we're seeing in our offices every day, and we have seen since the last 6 months, we've seen a steady rise in the number of people coming in and the steady rise in the number of people wanting to buy houses. That certainly wasn't the case last year. Whatever Jonathan may impute about estate agents, we were saying quite clearly last year the market was desperately difficult, and we were calling for government action to try and resolve those issues.
It's interesting language you use, though, Kevin. You say the number of people coming in and the number of people wanting to buy houses. What about the number of people actually buying houses at the asking price?
Well, at the asking price, the percentage of agreed price to asking price has risen. It was 92% last year. It's 95% this year. But I think the key factor is the number of transactions, and we're selling 35% more properties this year than we were this time last year. So there's been a definite and significant rise. How long that will last, nobody knows. It's up to the buyers, not up to people like Jonathan and myself to dictate whether this market is going to continue to improve. But at the moment, we're very happy where we are compared to where we were.
Yeah, but where you are now, how much of a discount are sellers, vendors having to give below their asking price to get a house shifted?
Less and less is the answer. I say last year you really had to work hard with your vendors to get them to see sense to do a deal.
Can you talk percentages to us, Kevin? What average discount needs to be put on an asking price?
It's average of 5%, 95% of asking price we're achieving at the moment. So But in many cases now we're seeing agreed prices around about the asking price because there are so few properties about, and that's one thing that's really holding the market back or will push prices up, in our view, is that there's very comparatively fewer properties coming on the market, relatively few.